Okay, everyone, I want to welcome everybody to today's midweek recharge. Technically Thursday, but I guess in New York terms, it's still midweek. I know tonight is New York's night out, so to kick off the weekend. So maybe we're toward the end a little bit. But I'm Chet Dalzell. I'm with the Digital Advertising Alliance, and I'm one of the board members of Direct Marketing Club of New York. And this is our lineup of sponsors for our 2021 midweek recharge series. So want to thank Axiom, Wyland, Alliance, Durista, Japs Olson, Epsilon, and Mick Bigger Higginbottom. And I will talk to you a little bit about our webinar today. So we're expecting a pretty big crowd today, so I've asked folks to keep your cameras off and audio off during the course of the presentation on our Zoom today. We can enter questions in the chat anytime you'd like to address the panel, and we'll make sure those are sent along. And if at the end, we can open up our lines too, if it's just to say hello to everyone. I always like that last, explosion of connectivity before the day you may. And just want to say thank you for joining us. Our last midweek recharge was about the Postal Service, and today we're going to talk about direct mail and print advertising. And I'm working in the Digital Advertising Alliance, the Privacy Ad Choices program, but I really wanted to bring this topic. I'm proudly happy to bring this topic to our audience today, because I think after years working at the Direct Marketing Association and Hard Hanks and etc., I think like an integrated direct marketer. I bring direct marketing love and data love into pretty much every advertising decision I make. I believe wholly in my heart that digital advertisers try to think that way, but not all of them have a true direct marketing heritage. And I wish they did, because right now, that's going to serve brands, agencies, advertisers, publishers very well as they consider how to keep connected to today's consumer when the digital advertising ecosystem is having a little bit of a hiccup. And some of that hiccup is because of technology of the platforms and the settings that they deem this is how the internet is going to run. Typically, we've relied, certainly in the direct marketing community, we've relied on cookies. And those, we're going to have cookies for a little while longer, but they're going, third-party cookies are going away to an extent where identity of our customer and identity of our prospects may be broken if we're not able to keep an identity stream flowing to them. So that's in the world of digital advertising. But in the world of customer connectivity and prospecting, we have a world of media available to us, and we have a world of direct marketing media and direct response media available to us that is not broken, and that does serve very incredibly important aims about data collection of our customers in relevant, ethical, responsible ways in order to serve them better. And I think it's wise for everyone in the brand community and those who advise them to stay connected to what print and direct mail marketing can do in the direct response category, because you're going to hear today from some whiz-bang experts on why direct mail and print matter and how it is working. I'm going to let Debbie Roth introduce our two speakers, but let me do a little bit of messaging about Debbie. Debbie's with Japs Olson Company. You can see she's Vice President of Sales and Marketing there, but she also serves with me on the Echo Awards Board of Governors. The DMA Echoes which is today the A&A Echoes, are 92 years of direct marketing, global campaigns. Much of that is in direct mail, but also digital media and integrated media, both consumer and business to business markets. And we have been seeing lots of trends on how direct mail in particular is playing a very key role in digital customer connectivity today, even in this digital first, mobile first world we are increasingly living in. And so let Debbie speak to you further about this panel and to get things rolling for us today. Thank you, Debbie.
Well, thank you very much, Chet. Thank you very much, Chet. And I also want to thank the Direct Marketing Club of New York for hosting today's conversation. And I'd like to just take one moment right now to just using this as a great opportunity to invite all of our audience who may or may not be a member to consider becoming a member of our association. Simply put, you will find it will pay dividends to you many times over. So today's recharge conversation, it's going to be a conversation quite freewheeling in a way. It's going to be a lot of fun because your speakers and me, we are passionate about print and direct mail, and we like Scotch in one form or the other. So that's with a little bit of a tease. But right now, it's my privilege to introduce John Sasan. He is president of HBT Marketing. Now, I met John several years ago when he was presenting at a conference. He is a brilliant marketing strategist and one of the country's premier leaders when it comes to integrated and omni-channel marketing, from top to bottom, inside and out. He's also a sought-after national and international speaker, and that's why I'm really excited he is with us today. So what's a great icebreaker question for him later on? Well, you might want to ask him what his favorite Scotch is, or his brand is. Now, if you ask our other guest, John McLosh, about his favorite Scotch, be prepared. He will proceed to give you a story or two about the importance of combining hot tea with his favorite brand. Well, today we are going to be calling John by his nickname, Miggs. Miggs is the owner and founder of McLosh Marketing. He's also president of the Wisconsin DMA. But when it comes to understanding and making database marketing systems work for you, Miggs is your guy. He has over 38 years of working with organizations such as the USPS, Cabela's, Adobe, and even General Motors credit card company, just to name a few. And yes, he has many relevant and fascinating stories, many of which he will share today probably, but he also shares them every day on his, I don't know if you call it a podcast, but it's his show called Direct Mail Live Daily. And it's every day at 10 a.m. Central Time on LinkedIn. He also has some of these same stories included in his marketing book called Spitting Straw into Gold. It's really an executive guide to the magic of turning data into money. And of course, available on Amazon and his website. So with that, John and Miggs, we are excited to start talking about print and direct mail. And we all know it's more relevant now than ever before. Just ask any of us, right? What is the one thing you would like your audience, our audience, to come away with from today's conversation? Let's first start out with Miggs, followed by John. Miggs?
Well, thank you again for the invitation. I've always wanted to work with the Direct Marketing Club of New York. I'm really excited. So the one thing about mail, and I've spent literally years thinking about this, because as a pioneer in machine learning, when Forrester says that 87% of machine learning projects never even get to ROI, it puzzled me because we were able to work with big catalogers and make tons of money. And so why is it that I, who really have no background in that stuff, was able to make it work? And the reason actually is something that's baked into mail, that mail can tell you not only who bought, you know, but anybody can do that. I mean, you run a TV commercial and people come to your store. But you don't know who watched your commercial and didn't buy. That's the missing piece. In digital, you don't know who actually looked at the ad and it registered, but didn't buy. You don't even know on most of them who was in the room. But even if they were sitting right in front of their monitor and the ad came by and you can track that with cookies, you still don't know if they were paying any attention, right? Or if it tracked. With mail, you get virtually 100% delivery. We know it gets delivered. We know that it goes to the household. We know that it has to be touched and reacted to, and it has to be reacted to by a decision maker. You know, we didn't let the kids pick up the mail and we sure didn't let them throw out the mail, right? Yeah, you say, oh, it all gets thrown out. Yeah, but it got thrown out by the decision maker. I could look through it, take the stuff for me, but I couldn't throw the stuff out. She did that. Always. So it's always engaged with at a higher level than virtually any digital advertising with a click. And so because of all that, you know with certainty who engaged with your advertising and didn't buy. And no other media gives you that information. And because of that, it's a foundation for machine learning that can generate millions of dollars in sales. I'm not opposed to omni-channel, but every e-commerce merchant should be doing mail as a laboratory. It should be the foundation of your marketing. And then you pour gasoline on it with the social and the mass media. I scared him when I gave him that talk, but when we were doing the tryouts or something.
It's always good when we're pouring gas on stuff.
I like pouring gas on it, but you got to know what you're pouring gas on.
That's right. Well, actually, it's a good segue to the one thing I'd like everybody to come away with. But like you, I very much appreciate the Direct Marketing Club in New York having us on. I really love the whiz bang guru title. I'm changing mine. Chet, I think that's what you said, but I very much appreciate that. And I think the one thing I'd like everybody to come away with about how direct mail is different from all the other digital channels is that direct mail can be touched. And from the perspective of your audience, that can make a huge, huge difference. There's actually a study of touch called haptics. And it's been shown that the brain has 10 times more receptors for touch than it does for vision. So you've already got a 10-to-1 advantage by virtue of the fact that you're using this channel that people can touch, but it really does go much further than that. So the tactile, or the ability to touch, is perceived to be both personal, trustworthy, and engaging. And there have been plenty of studies by Stanford University, by Bangor, by Canada Post, showing categorically a stronger emotional connection or response than from digital, because physical means something real and it generates more emotion. People spend more time with the ads, which means that you have better engagement with your audience. And according to some of these studies, 70% higher recall over digital. So, I mean, if you think about that, that is a significant difference between any other channel. And direct mail, the reason really is that print on paper is just much easier to read. In fact, the studies have shown direct mail requires 21% less cognitive effort. So all of us, men, women, young, old, I'm sorry, but we just don't want to put that much effort into our the marketing messages that we receive. And so if it's easy to read, if it's easier to process, we're going to find it more trustworthy. We're going to engage with it more. It's just a fact that we're going to respond better to that than we are other channels. And those same studies show that 20% higher activation in the part of the brain that really corresponds to motivation. So obviously in all direct response, frankly, in all marketing, we're trying to motivate our audience to take some sort of action. And so this channel just really has some significant advantages compared to the digital channels. So that would be the one thing I'd like people to remember, whether you set it on fire or not.
Well, hey, thanks very much, guys. And, you know, now today we've got the pandemic that we are all hoping is in our rearview mirror, right? But through all where we are now, things have gotten shaken up. There's not one thing that has not been touched, that has not been disrupted as a result of the pandemic. And when I think about it, I think when the pandemic really hit us, you know, we all quickly adjusted to the Zoom video meetings. Thank God the technology is there for all that. We learned how to order online if we didn't do that before. We're working from home in some cases. You know, that was all great. It still is great. Digital and social media was the hot thing. It is still the hot thing, right? But is it too much of a good thing? You know, heavens, you know, within weeks, I don't know about you guys, but within weeks of the pandemic, I saw my neighbors with their children in tow greeting their USPS carriers with welcome signs and cookies. But this was not the ice cream man. This was your USPS carrier. So there had to be something that the power of direct mail is alive and well and was being seen some way differently than it was pre-pandemic. So from a marketer's perspective, I am wondering what insights can marketers really learn from the pandemic? Let me start off the conversation first by asking John, what has been the impact to print and direct mail during the pandemic? And how do you see any of that change going forward?
Yeah, so actually, I did just hear a talk by a company called Smithers. They do a tremendous amount of research into what's going on in the direct marketing, direct mail space. And it's a consulting company that looks at the data associated with, you know, the activity. And obviously the pandemic has taken a huge bite out of print for a variety of reasons. Supply chain, certainly one of them, but also demand, because, you know, I think it was over a year and a half ago, and I gave Ruth Stevens a ride to the hotel after a trade show. And I don't know about you guys, but it's been at least a year and a half since that happened. And all the print associated with it, whether it be display or direct mail or any of the rest of the stuff, has just completely gone away. And everything is virtual now. Will that return? I certainly hope so. I think people appreciate looking each other in the eye and hearing speakers in person and shaking hands. But that, like a number of other types of print, have completely disappeared. And this is an acceleration of the process with digital, because I think there was, on some level, as digital grew, this channel got abandoned a little bit to the detriment of many companies who found that they needed to return to that. Also, the pandemic pretty much cut the B2B aspect of direct mail out, because no one's in the office anymore. It's hard to get that delivered. The B2C channel is certainly available. In fact, if you could get addresses for those who were from their office to their home, fantastic. But if there was any growth, it was in the B2C side of things. And unfortunately, now that the pandemic, well, you know, God forbid, but like hopefully it's over, but whatever, it's at least waning. There are a number of different factors that really direct mail has an advantage. One, as John said earlier, it's getting delivered. I think people are hungry for that the recipients are hungry for this type of this channel, this method of getting the message out. And the technology associated with how to get something printed has also changed. So, you know, both the speed with which you can get the message to the audience, the level of personalization that you can put into it, and the data that you have that you're using for whatever channel you have allows you to really do a much better job targeting and trying to reach people, you know, when they're ready to make a decision to buy about the thing that they're interested to buy, and using the data you may have about them. So I use Lamps Plus as a great example. We did some work on our house and bought a lamp from Lamps Plus. It's an online retailer, and in the mail came a suggestion about what we also might want to buy associated with the thing that we'd purchase. And it was brilliant. And it was obviously personalized to us. And I just thought, this is the way to make connection, and this channel allows you to do it. And don't get me wrong, understand that the digital channel does too. But this is something that, as John said earlier, you'll know whether I'm responding. You know I got it, because that's where you delivered the original. And so I think the future for direct mail and for print going forward is dependent on people adopting those technologies, and making it happen from the standpoint of really, you know, satisfying their clients.
Hey, thanks very much. You know, as you were talking about all these different channels that our customers and brands have choices on, you know, it kind of comes back into the thinking of, gee, is the decision really how much and when do we mail to a different or reach out to through these different channels? Or could it be, has that kind of replaced any other kind of testing? Now, Megs, I know that you are a big proponent of testing, especially at the what and the why. So is testing even a thing today? Would you give us a couple examples of tests that you think that every marketer should do, no matter what channel you're in?
Well, testing is a little problematic. I did a talk a couple of years ago for NMOA, and they said, why would we want to even have a talk on testing? And so I went around the show and I asked people, what is the direct definition of direct marketing? And everybody said, generate a measurable response. You've probably heard of that. That was like embedded in the Direct Marketing magazine inside front cover for decades. And so we've caused our own, we've caused some of our own problems there. If you just look at that definition, measurable doesn't even mean we measure. It means we could if we wanted. And, oh, there's something missing there, which is the word test. I used to stop at Bob Stone's house, who was one of the authors of the definition. And I said, Bob, how could you leave out the word test? And he said, John, we couldn't imagine that somebody could measure but wouldn't. And we couldn't imagine that if you were measuring, you wouldn't test. But I went around and asked people if they thought they were testing enough. And one of the most interesting answers I got was from America's oldest catalog, still in existence. And they said the CFO doesn't like tests, because if one component wins and one component loses, and the component that loses generates less profit. So it erodes our profit if we test, because by definition, something's going to lose the test. I said, yeah, but how do you know the winner? How do you know what to do next if you don't test? You know, he's expecting you to guess the future, and it doesn't work that way. I was in a general ad agency for about a couple of years, and we won 5 out of 5 pitches, and they would have me get up and talk about how we could measure and we could test and accountable advertising, and every one of those presidents or VPs said, we like that guy who said you could measure and test. Well, then the meeting came where the client comes in for the big, creative meeting, and I never got invited. And they have great sandwiches and you know, hors d'oeuvres at those things. So I was a little disappointed. And finally I asked the creative director, how come I never get invited? And he said, well, first of all, your portfolio is ugly. Just because you win doesn't make it, you know, good advertising. And we want to win awards. And we don't really want to know what works. We want to know what wins awards. And the ad manager from the client, they want to win awards too. So frankly, we don't want you in the meetings, and we don't ever want to see your portfolio again. So I started my own consulting firm. So, you know, it'll be 40 years come this September. And I've fought for testing the entire way. I was working with a little catalog out on the East Coast a couple of years ago, and a furniture company, and they said they hired a new VP from a major brand, major consumer beverage. And he said to me, John, why would we want to mail to our existing customers who already understand our product line? Our major problem is image recognition or brand recognition. Nobody knows who we are. So why shouldn't we spend all our money in going to prospects with media, social media, and mass media? And I said, Patrick, that's an excellent question. I've never been asked any better question than that. And I said, but we can tell, we can test, we can figure it out. He said, you can? I said, yeah. Here's how we do it. We take that, you know, couple of 100,000 that you're going to mail, and we don't mail some of them. We just leave them out. We'll be very careful because you want to leave out an equal proportions of the good ones and the medium ones and the bad ones. I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, but we'll selectively eliminate like 10% of them. And then we'll watch how they do in the next month or two. And, you know, because we built a customer database, we could actually keep track. And it turned out that the ones who were not mailed lost them about, well, the way I ran the numbers, the cost of the catalog to the customers generated 300% ROI. Bottom line, EBITDA. Yeah. And then we started figuring out that we got a lot of orders from people who weren't customers, but were like the next door neighbors to our customers. And if you took that into account, Patrick said, we'll take them both. Let's look at both of them. He's a very smart guy. I really like Patrick. Anyway, he said, you know, see what the ROI is then. It was 900%. And this is in a cloud of digital and mass media and a beautiful website and anything else they could think of doing. We didn't turn that off. We let it go, but we didn't know the impact of that. And it's really hard to tell who's watching and who isn't, right? As I said earlier. But in mail, we know who got it and what they did, and we know who didn't get it and what they didn't do. And we found out a 900% ROI. But more importantly than that, then we said, okay, now since we've got such great impact with our customers, independent of what we thought, kind of like John's story, where they bought extra stuff. They came back and bought more. What a surprise. We asked them to buy more. And they gave it to their neighbors and they bought more. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't do the other stuff. I'm saying it really, really worked. I said, this is working so well, we should try deliberately driving traffic to the stores, because they had about 80 retail stores. And we did 4 of the main buying propositions that they had. They had 4 things that they used to say to people about why their furniture was good. Well, it turned out that one of them had more impact in store traffic and purchases than the other 3 put together. So they scrapped this and they started doing TV commercials with that one phrase. And the TV commercials were designed to drive people to their website. Then, thanks to Brian DeLate at LS Direct, you may know Brian, I don't know, but it was his idea. Had nothing to do with me. This was back a few years ago when pretty much no one had heard of it. We would take the people who came to the website and send them a mailer to give them an offer to get them to the stores. Well, that worked like crazy. Then they basically, the whole thing just poured gas on the little bit that we found from mail. We figured out how to model and how to drive traffic with prospecting. to the stores with mail. The bottom line was they'd been growing through incremental growth about 10% a year, not bad, but always by opening new stores. But in 1 year, they went from 75 million to 100 million in sales. And 1 year for a retailer had been around forever. It was their #1 growth year, and they went public. But I just want you to understand it was built on a foundation of knowledge, where mail was the catalyst that allowed them to pour fuel on all the other media. So we got holdout test, offer test. Got it?
Yeah, John, or Miggs, I have to say the thing about that, and it's a uniquely direct mail channel tactic. The challenge with the holdout is everybody wants to reach everyone, and so you're actually
Exactly.
taking out, several thousand potentially customers and not mailing them. But the value of it is tremendous, as you said, and I'm going to start lighting on things on fire or blowing them up. I don't know. I like the gas, pouring the gas on there. But we did some work for H&R Block, and if you think about them as an organization, they have one opportunity every year to reach out to their audience, and they do a number of different streams, and one of them is about win back. So if you did business with H&R Block 2 years ago, but you didn't do it last year, then they want you back, and that's their win back stream. And it's one mailing. So they really only have that one chance to reach the audience. So there is testing. I mean, there's absolutely a champion from the prior year and potentially multiple different challengers. And we've been fortunate enough to create the champion and beat it again with challengers. But in every single instance, they have a holdout, because even if you win and you do a fantastic job and your piece is the best, if it doesn't beat the holdout significantly, then why did you mail in the first place? And as you said, actually, they do a fabulous job with their data. So the slice of the audience is equitable across both the challenger and the holdout and the champion. It's proof positive. It's proof positive that the channel makes a difference, and that you're going to get incremental revenue as a result of using that. And of course, it is multi-channel. But it's proof positive, and that's one of the things that's great about direct mail, is that you get that proof positive. So
was it John, was it hard for you to be able, was it hard for you guys to convince the naysayers within those particular examples, and for their leadership to see why it was so important to do these testing, and it was going to be beneficial beyond the immediacy? Or did you run into some buzzsaws?
yeah, so I'll just tell you the sort of contrary. So for H&R Block, they're veterans. They've been doing it. Actually, we've been doing it with them for years, and so they understand and appreciate the value of the holdout, of testing. They've seen the results. We did some work a couple of years ago for Dish, and again, great data organization, able to slice and dice, able to model, able to do a lot of things from a testing perspective. And when we were involved in the strategy and recommended that they only approach this particular group because of their likelihood to respond, and talked about the other piece of the return on investment, which is not even as a holdout, but just not mailing this group because the data says they're not going to respond. They said, that's a fabulous idea. You're absolutely right. And we're going to mail everybody. And they said that because one person might respond. Now, that doesn't play into the ROI calculations, but you don't want to miss anybody. And that's hard to convince people of sometimes. And so So you mail everybody. I mean, I'm sure it proved to be that waste that we talked about from an ROI perspective, but nevertheless, they probably got incremental revenue out of some of the people who received that direct mail piece. I'm sure of it.
And
right, Nibs? I mean,
we did some work for oh no, I can't think of it. Well, one of the very, very first online financial traders, and pre-cookie, they had 4 main systems, and they didn't track anybody going from one system to another, so it was a complete nightmare. But we made some suggestions like that. You know, there's some places that are lower return than others, and they said basically, well, we're not paid to worry about that. Which Ruth reminded me of. I helped launch a catalog for IBM years ago, and I was in this meeting, and they said, well, how many businesses are there in America? And I said, well, you know, 10 million to 14 million, depending on who you count. If you knock out the less than 10 employees, you know, let's go closer to 10. And they said, you mean, and how much is a catalog? I said, well, you can do a nice one for $1. And they said, you mean for 10 million lousy dollars, we can just mail everybody? And I said, well, you could, but you know, this is a launch and you might want to test things. And it turned out that we got such a wonderful response that they were out of stock and everything within about a week. And it took them 2 years to get any credibility back with the marketplace because they'd botched it up so badly. But I wanted to talk about that pandemic question just for a second. Ron Jacobs over in Chicago told me a great story, kind of privately, but he works with a fireworks company. And last spring, all the fireworks were considered non-essential. Can you imagine? I can't even imagine that. But anyway, so all the retail stores were closing. But this company, in their wisdom of the pandemic, said, you know what? I think people are going to want to shoot fireworks. And I did put my phone on mute, but it's not muted. I'll just throw it across the room. Anyway, and so they went and called all the other fireworks companies and bought up all their inventory. They said, you're closed anyway, you know, we'll take it we'll give you a good price. And I see all these articles about the pandemic, and they say, you know, because now people have engaged with e-commerce, you need to up your digital experience. What you really need is to make sure you got something to sell product, sell value, sell good quality, deliver what you promise. Those things are timeless. And it amazes me that, you know, you can read an article just yesterday. It was a good one by the president of RRD. And, you know, she made this leap from the lessons we learned were the people who had merchandise could sell. That was a big lesson. And I'm just astounded. Oh, and the fireworks company had their best year ever, by the way. I mean, they did have an online channel, but, you know, it was like the only company in America that went out and bought more inventory. Oh, yeah, their main supplier was in Wuhan, China, if you've ever heard of that name.
Whoops.
So anyway, what we take away from the pandemic is, when in crisis, remember the fundamentals. That's what I'd say. And that's not what I'm hearing in the media trades.
So John, I think that, or Megs, I'm sorry, you know, that's a perfect segue into our next kind of topic grouping, if you will, tying in testing as well as getting caught up to what you think or what channel we should be allocating things to. You all might have remembered a few years ago, there's 2 brands called Nordstrom and J. Jill. They're both public companies. A couple of years ago, they reported some really disappointing first quarter results. They both attributed this in part because they stopped their direct mail programs and relied only on digital programs. Now, this is pre-pandemic, okay? Nordstrom acknowledged at that time that they underappreciate how direct mail drove in-store traffic. Well, on the other hand, J. Jill were caught by surprise because they said that they were surprised that their loyalty customers relied on mail and not totally on digital. It's probably a age demographic kind of a thing. So today, we're going through the pandemic. It's now kind of exiting out. Many would now suggest, because of the pandemic, helped fast forward the use of digital and the understanding of digital and social channels by several years, that perhaps post-pandemic, these organizations would probably have a more positive digital results. So how would you both advise any brand about their media choices, particularly with print and direct mail? Let's start out with John first, and we'll follow up with Megs. John?
Yeah, I think everybody who's listening to this right now should abandon everything but direct mail. And if possible, if they could do their printing with Japs Olson, I think that would be awesome.
And get somebody with a white beard to help you.
That's right, John, our Megs. So, you know, I think that certainly there's no denying the fact that there's been the explosion of digital, and that there is a lot of value in where you take people. So, you know, we still do business with companies that have a form that somebody fills out and mails back. And people still do that. But I have to say the demographics associated with the folks who do that, that particular demographic is probably going to wane in the not too distant future. And driving people online to actually transact the business, which is much easier from a workflow perspective. You know, the proliferation of who has ability to reach that has just gone through the roof. So on the back end, certainly the digital aspect of it is just much more efficient. But from a reach and from an effort to reach the audience in the first place, it's really a combination of all of those things. And if you can do it in an integrated way, and the clients that we work with who are doing it in an integrated way, they are far more successful, I think, than their competition in reaching the audience, because it's not just the direct mail piece, it's an email, it's a social post, it's TikTok, it's whatever it is that reaches the audience where they are. There was a great study done a number of years ago by the Boston Consulting Group that said that on average, you have to touch somebody about 6.7 times. And I don't know how they came up with the 0.7, but whatever. You have to touch them that many times in order for them to act. And that touch didn't even have to come from you. So if I'm in the market for lamps, and I get an email, a direct mail piece, I see something online, I see a banner, there's a social post, etc. It's not, you know, on the 6.7th time I'm ready to buy and it better be you, but I am doing that level of comparison. And if you're not everywhere I am, you miss an opportunity to make the sale. So I think the omni, multi, whatever you want to call it, channel approach still makes a lot of sense. And I absolutely would not leave direct mail out of that picture because of all the things we've talked about already.
And test.
And test. Yeah, Migs?
Well, the J. Jill and Nordstrom's, which happen to be within, I think, a week of each other that they did this, the stock call, is a great illustration of the cost of not testing. I think the people that stop the mail should be fired and probably blackballed. Anybody that stupid should go keep bees or something. You didn't have to stop all the mail. All you had to do was stop it at 5 select stores or some subset, and you would have your answer without the dramatic negative impact in sales. I mean, that is textbook stupid. Okay. Study the J.C. Penney case study. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with mail. It just has to do with when somebody decides in their head that they know everything and don't want to listen to anybody, then it cost J.C. Penney in that case $4 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to test, or you're going to hire a guy from Apple who knows all the answers. I mean, I'm not saying what he did wasn't completely idiotic, but the numbers weren't there, and there was no testing. And from what I've read, he didn't want to listen to anybody. So when somebody asks me, does it make sense to put a starburst, or does it make sense to put a QR code? I don't have to say, oh, I hate QR codes, or like my kids, Dad, those are for boomers or whatever. You say, look, let's put it on some and not on some, and be very careful about it, right? And we can give you the answer. It may take a little while, but it's possible. And I think if we could get that message across, and what really scares me right now is that there has been sort of a renewed interest in mail. But man, and I search the internet every day for articles mentioning direct mail, and I find them in some weird places, in some weird countries. But I never see anybody talk about, like tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow morning, about an excellent article. And they have a statistic that they say on the retargeting. There was a big study, and somebody did retargeting with just email. And then if people didn't open the email, they mailed them something. And the response rate from the mail was double the response rate from the email. And I say, oh, that's nice. What's the cost of mail compared to email? 10 times higher? 20 times higher? I'm not saying there isn't ROI, but I'm saying, look, the numbers will bear it out. And yet there's no mention of the context. And I'm tired of direct mailers and direct marketers who should know better, not even describing how powerful the tools are that we have for really getting an answer. And maybe it's because, the people who really know are all dead. But there's a couple of us left who could really help. And I'm completely mystified by the whole thing. We can give you the answer. You don't have to be blind. And we're not opposed to you spending most of the money on, imprinted lollipops or something.
Now you
Well-
see there, Debbie, you made Migs angry. All right, now stop doing that. All right.
We poured gas. We poured gas on the whole thing, didn't we? But that's a perfect segue, Mix, because
Well, good.
talking about these experts, year over year, the studies, focus groups, statistics always talk about the power of direct mail. Although sometimes you kind of wonder why our marketing colleges and universities don't seem to want to pick up on that, but that's another conversation. And experts, you were talking about the experts. The experts have analyzed, they've studied, they've wondered about why is this direct mail, this channel is so darn powerful. Not only that they're also a little bit perplexed about why the data is demonstrating, I'm surprised that they were even looking at the data, that the younger generations likes and trusts receiving direct mail. So Migs, what are the attributes of this channel that has it over all the others, that it continues to attract all age groups?
Well, first of all, as my style consultant pointed out, after she had let the mail pile up for a couple of weeks or months, because she just couldn't deal with it in the pandemic, she said, eventually I had to deal with it. I had to look at it. All other advertising disappears if you ignore it. Think about that. The billboard stays up, but you're along down the highway. You don't have to think about it. All you have to do is not. The digital ads on your morning screen, you've probably already seen 100 digital ads today. I don't remember one. I can't remember one, except maybe the nice pitch that Debbie gave for the DMC NY. I can't, and I don't mean to be facetious about it, but I can remember I got this mailer yesterday, which is a bad, terrible mailer. It's got an owl on it, and it says "Stand Out," and it's got Miglosh Marketing reverse print. Can you imagine a worse mailer than that? It's like unreadable. It's like, It's terrible. I couldn't imagine anybody doing anything worse than that. And you know what? I had to engage with it. Dang it. Because mail doesn't throw itself away. Everybody else does. Every other medium throws itself away without engagement. That's the magic right there.
Yeah, and I can only add that from a demographic perspective, so I used to make a presentation where I had a picture of my daughter in it, who I believe is beyond millennial. What is that? Gen Z. And normally her face when she's looking at me is like that, a little bit suspicious. But the fact is that whether it's novelty or whether it's just that somebody was thinking of her in a different way, getting a piece of mail is an event. And they are excited about it, and as well they should be. Particularly those things, as Mig said, that you engage with, something that's manipulative. I mean, something that you can have in somebody's hands that's going to be in their hands for minutes versus seconds is unbelievably powerful. And so whether it's that novelty, whether it's just the fact that it doesn't happen as often, the younger generation appreciates mail. Doing it well, we really do need to educate the next generation about how to do it. The big reverse type on a white background is really not going to cut it. But I think that's eminently possible, and it's something worth doing, because direct mail, contrary to, or maybe as Samuel Clemens said, rumors of its death are premature. It's got a life, and I think it is appreciated by the next generation, and they're reading it and responding to it. So, any rate, I think it's a fait accompli, so to speak.
Somebody asked in our chat box while you were all talking, if anyone could cite a study that speaks to the receptivity of direct mail by generation. I believe that was Todd Gibson. And I can cite one survey, actually. The source is from the annual State of Marketing Communication Survey by Key Point Intelligence 2020 that bears a lot of this out. So that's one of many. I mean, I think if you Google it and stuff, you'll be surprised of how much really is out there, but I wanted to just share that information. But, talking about print and direct mail, John, according to Epsilon's direct mail advertising statistics, 6 in 10 Americans say they enjoy receiving a glossy catalog, and it makes them feel really appreciated by the brand. Why do you think that is true?
I think beyond the tactile nature, as I've talked about before, particularly if the cataloger is doing a good job. So if they know their audience, then they are already predisposed to be sending something to somebody that they're going to appreciate. I have to admit that I'm incredibly bummed out that IKEA doesn't make a catalog anymore, because I'm an IKEA veteran, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about the IKEA effect. I'm definitely one of those people who's been affected by them deeply, as a matter of fact. But the fact that they don't do a catalog anymore is a bummer. And I think if you're a veteran client or customer of a cataloger, it's a show of thanks, appreciation, and oh, by the way, here's the latest and greatest. And frankly, whether it's glossy or not, I just think people find value in being approached in that way. Certainly better than, I may still shop online, but this is more a presentation of here's what we've got and here's what's new, that's come directly to me. So I think it's about the personalization or the personal feel of the cataloger.
Well, with that, Chet, I know we only have a few minutes left. Did you have some closing items that you wanted to cover?
Sorry, I'm here. Okay. I'm just enthralled by it all. Listen, I want to thank you guys for just bringing it home today. It's when A&A acquired the Direct Marketing Association or Data Marketing Association, forgive me, in 2018. I think it was a little bit of I patted ourselves on the back in the direct marketing community because I felt like the brand chiefs understood they needed to learn about data, and they needed to learn about how data can be deployed responsibly. And they knew direct mail and direct marketers had already solved all those problems. That did not mean the chief marketing officer came from the data direct marketing community. But there's hope on that front. We're seeing more CMOs who do have at least some exposure from data and direct, and some who came up through data and direct into the ranks. I think perhaps, that's a recognition that we're no longer the sad, Madison Avenue stepchild, and, nobody really wants to, we're not invited to Cannes, necessarily to pick up our advertising awards. But as Debbie can attest, and as Migs, I'm sure you guys have actually won Echo Awards. The Echoes still continue to honor strategy, creativity, and results in equal weight. And that is really where we should keep our attention, our duty to test, because we'll know what the results are going to be. We can help predict what those results are going to be. So I just really want to say thank you. We didn't really talk about privacy. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to have I'll show you an upcoming events slide. But truly, with first party data becoming like the be all and end all right now, which I can tell you it's probably overstated. But I think one of the great ways of collecting first party data is through your direct mail channel. And that's a super way to keep connected with your consumer. So again, thank you from the club to all of you guys for really bringing it today. I'm excited. I'm not drinking scotch, but it's kind of scotch colored. I will be drinking scotch later in your honor. So thank you very much, guys. Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Terry, can we bring up our next little bit of love that we've got going on? See, I think the green fig at the Novotel is in the lower right corner there of your screen. We're going to do a meetup on August 12th. It's our first face-to-face club, open door, open outside gathering. And I really want to encourage you guys to get on your plane in the Midwest and come visit us in New York. We're accepting your tourist and business dollar. So love to have you. I'd love to return the favor and go on a Midwest tour, especially during Big Ten football season. Come on down from Boston. I think the Yankees and Red Sox are playing tonight. Anyway, so August 12th, that's going to be 6 to 8 p.m. Then on Thursday, we're doing a September 16th. We're going to do a 2-hour virtual event with Axiom and IPG Kinesso, all on data privacy, looking at, oh my God, when are we going to get a federal law to take California, Virginia, Colorado, fill in the blank, who are coming up with their own laws, none of which, in my view, are informed about how data serves the consumer. And we're going to talk about managing the privacy issue, both from a public policy perspective and the ethics perspective. And then also want to just make everyone aware that our Silver Apples Gala, which we went virtual last year with no honorees, we're doing it back in fashion in New York on Thursday, November 4th, 6 to 10 p.m. But very importantly, nominations are open right now, and will be open through Friday, July 30th. And we placed the URL there to, you can go nominate someone in our business, 25 years or longer, who've made a great impact on digital direct data marketing in New York area or affecting New York area. You name it, anybody can put a nomination in, and we'll be looking for those nominations to conclude by July 30th this year. So I wanted to make sure you put the nominations on your calendar and also the Silver Apples Gala. Debbie, you're a Silver Apples honoree, right?
Thank you.
So very good.
A while ago, yes, thank you. And I'm really so glad that you did bring up about the Echoes, because for those brands that are still interested, and we hope they are interested in being able to show off and be able to submit their great campaigns into the Echoes, it is more than just putting a lot of pretty pictures out there. They really have to have a robust strategy and creative as well as the results. So it's a fantastic award.
Yeah.
No other thing competes with it. So
thank you, Debbie. I mean, this is one of the best things you can do if you want to get your foot into the Echoes, is serve as a judge. If you have any direct marketing experience, this is an opportunity to get a first row seat on what people think is their best work from agencies, from the brands in the direct response, direct marketing, data marketing category. And there'll be a call to judges at some point later this year from the ANA for the Echoes. And if you want to be a nominee, if you want to be considered as a judge, please reach out to Debbie and I will help make that happen.
absolutely.
So with that, I think we call it a day. I'm a couple minutes over, but thank you very much. And we will look forward to seeing you August 12th. Registration's open. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.